Welcome to Making a Difference. My name is Todd Morgan. Today we have a very special guest, Larry Hochberg. Larry lives both in Chicago and in Los Angeles, spends his time approximately 50% in each area. He, approximately 13 years ago, sold his business and has committed his life to helping the Jewish people. The first question I have for you, Larry, is what life experience or experiences directed you, motivated you to get so involved in charitable activities?
It's a very good question. I grew up in a middle-class Jewish home in Chicago. I was bar mitzvahed, but was never that involved in the synagogue, and really my mind was on other things. We were culturally Jewish, so the people that were my closest friends and the people that I went out with were Jewish, but never a great passion for Israel. I kind of knew when it happened, when Israel became independent. I'm old enough for that in 1948. But what really woke me up was the Six-Day War. I was in business at that time, the toy business, which evolved into Toys R Us. And I'm working, I'm 30 years old or whatever, and all of a sudden Israel's surrounded again. And okay, what next? Well, the best friend was Lyndon Johnson at that time, and who was a friend. But nobody was doing anything. The Straits of Tiran were closed. The UN pulled out of the Sinai Peninsula. Israel was alone, and the UN was doing nothing. The president at that time decided, well, we'll have an international flotilla to break the blockade in the Gulf of Aqaba, etc. But nothing happened. And I really got frightened. I thought, here we go again. We have another Holocaust, and Israel can't possibly do anything about it. But they did. And the Six-Day War changed my life. The following 6 months later, I went to visit Israel for the first time, and I couldn't believe it, because I grew up feeling, well, maybe Jews are parasitical, we're brains, we're doctors, we're business people, but we couldn't run a country. We needed others to run a country so we could prosper and live there. And that realization really changed my attitude, changed my life, and from then on, my interest and knowledge became really something that was unbelievable, and every year I got more involved. No matter what the problems are and were, I managed to try to deal with them, and that's where it all came from.
Who in your life had the greatest impact on you? Was it a parent, a friend, that were role models for you for philanthropy?
Well, my family was not philanthropic, but as I began to get involved in Jewish life, and I met others who did, mostly originally through the Jewish Federation in Chicago, which is one of the better ones in the country. You probably know that.
Of course.
But I would say Israeli leadership is what motivated me. I always felt, certainly then anyway, that if the Israelis made a decision, there was a life or death decision, I had confidence in it, that if that's the way it had to be, that's the way it had to be. I hope it's still true today. So my real influences in giving came from outside my family, but from my dedication to the work, it came mostly from Israel. And people that I met there in the various times I've been there, probably like you, I've been there maybe 35 times, and each time is different. So the miracle to me is a priceless one, and I'd say that's how I'd really respond most accurately to that question, Todd.
It was a good answer. So obviously your passion is towards Israel, for Israel, but I know you're involved in a lot of other local Jewish organizations. Can you just list a couple of them and tell us what you're doing and why you're so involved?
Sure. I think there is a change, which most recognize. Most of our background comes in basic support for communal activities, elderly, JCCs, but things have moved some today where day schools have become more important. Advocacy has become more important. We can't just trust normal reactions to events. Our media, our work, our advocacy has to be on the level of those who are opposing us all the time. So Jews who rely on old ideas to try and deal with current challenges sometimes run into trouble. So how do you balance continuing to support good work that goes on, whether it's in terms of the elderly or in terms of the, as I said before, day schools, et cetera. But on campuses, those old formulas don't help Jewish kids on campus, for example, cope with the overwhelming anti-Israel activity that occurs on many campuses today. So you need to be really savvy. And so my interest has metamorphosized into still sticking with things that make sense, and things the community needs, to things that are important to go forward. And so
can you be specific?
Yeah, sure. I got very interested in the Friends of the IDF about 20 years ago. And at that time, it was nothing.
Tell our viewers what the IDF is.
I'd be delighted. As we all know, the kids that serve in the Army are the greatest kids in the world. Irrespective of what our enemies say, they're kind, they're dedicated, they're careful, and they don't want to be there. They know they have to be there. Well, the Israeli government still has tight budgets. They need to have certain sophisticated equipment in order to cope with all kinds of things. Iron Dome is the latest issue. But the kids who serve, who are in there for 3 years, men, and 2 years usually for women, had no facilities to enjoy themselves during the terrible time they served. I mean, there were no decent swimming pools, no gymnasiums, and no scholarship programs for poor kids who were even combat veterans. There just wasn't anything. They get $1,000 each when they leave, and that's it. Well, that couldn't take you through college. That couldn't get you on a track to become a real productive Israeli. And it turns out most of those young people are talented, but unless you have the talented kids get information and learn how to do things, they end up in the hood. So that's one thing that changed. Today, as you know, it's a major charity. I nationally led it for 4 years at a time when I'm very proud of. The level of fundraising today is a very high level. You probably know that. And, but we do what the government can't afford to do. And so that would be one very good example of things that are different.
More Making a Difference after this.
Other things I became very involved in, certainly I was on AIPAC's board for 6 years. They're very large today and do a great job. But it became pretty clear to myself and a gentleman by the name of Newton Becker about 10 years ago, Alav HaShalom, that nothing was going on outside of the U.S. So if you're one that believes that the U.S. can do everything alone to support Israel going forward, fine, but it isn't true, because the U.S. is subject to pressure from other countries, and we have to have solid pro-Israel advocacy in other countries besides the U.S. And everybody isn't unfriendly. There are times when it seems that way, but the work you can do in those countries, not you, but people that live there, providing they have these skills, it's like in business, the skills to do modern advocacy have to be learned, and you have to have professional people leading it. You can't just sit around a table, some volunteers, and try and deal with the sophisticated issues that are involved in pro-Israel advocacy. So, I mean, Canada today is a perfect example of an accomplishment. 12 years ago, we had a meeting of people from out through.
What's the name of this organization?
Our organization is the Friends of the European Leadership Network. But Canada's were the first country that decided to try this. One guy from Winnipeg was tired hearing the reasons why Canada can't do better. He said, I'll front the money. And Canada today is at least as friendly as the U.S. is. But it took work and contact with political people, supporting them in campaigns. There's a formula to it. Europe is the main area of contest right now. The last vote in the UN was not helpful. It would have been worse if there weren't things going on in Europe that at least tell Israel's side effectively and at least allow local people to do the best they can.
Well, France and Great Britain pulled their people out of Israel, right, because of what's happening with the settlements?
So far as I know, Todd, and you may know something I didn't, there have been threats issued in the media that that the UK, France, and Germany were considering pulling their ambassadors. I didn't see that it happened, and the last I heard, which may be dated by the time this goes out to the public, is that no one has done that yet, and France said they had no intention of doing it.
Really? So there's a change from what the media said yesterday.
Yeah, and we could debate the intelligence of the announcement of the new houses, but that's not the purpose. It's up to the Israeli government to decide what they think they want to do. But it's our job to try and explain and show our side of it, which is the Israeli side of it, but from an American perspective.
So this is an effective organization that's globalized what AIPAC does in this country, doing it overseas, and it's having impact from what you say.
Yes. And
if people want to get involved with that, who would they contact? How would they?
Well, that's very kind. We have actually our director, his name is Mark Moskowitz, and his email is mmoskowitz at FELNET, Friends of Israel Leadership Network.org. And we could also, he has a telephone number of 770-845-5300. He's our national president, and he's the person to contact.
Anything else, Larry, that you have a strong passion for?
My other view is this. The key thing that people that are well-to-do have to keep in mind is to support the good work of others. Some well-to-do people get so on a track of their particular interest that they don't understand that other people are doing great stuff too. So my philosophy has always been to realize that other people are doing great stuff and make sure you're supporting what they're doing too. There's all kinds of old establishments and new establishments. I mean, the Stand With Us program on campuses is fabulous. And I support it in a major way, as do others. And it fills in what currently federations have more trouble doing in certain parts of the country, and can deal with young people on campuses in a mentality that they can understand. So that's another strong interest I have, and support it in a major way. But there's all kinds of institutions, UN Watch, Media Central. Look, American Jewish Committee still does a good job. They're not perfect, no organization is, but they need funding to pay their people that work there.
Exactly.
And people forget that.
So my last question for you is, what would you tell young people? Why would you tell young people to get involved in these organizations? What is the gratification for them? How would you explain that to them?
It is a learning experience, Todd. At 20, you're a different person than you are later on. And today, the young people are so adept at communication with the various ways they do it, Facebook, et cetera, that they tend to maybe forget there are basic things. And Israel is the backbone of our 3,000 years of Jewish experience. And you have to learn all sides of it. You can't take just a clip from somewhere and run with it. You've got to understand the whole context, which takes some time, and also go to Israel. I mean, the Birthright program is marvelous. It's not perfect, it's marvelous. We're getting young people over there who all come back with a positive attitude, and then they have to hook in somewhere, whether it's at their Hillel on campus or the various groups that operate, and they have to learn a little more about Judaism from time to time too, because Judaism and Israel are connected. And the differences that people have over observance can't be looked at as something that's destructive. It has to be understood, and both sides of it, all the sides have to understand there's value in what the others are doing. So I would say that you have to jump in the water a little bit. You can't swim unless you're in the water. You can't be an effective Jewish activist unless you take something on faith.
Well, from listening to what you said today, Larry, my instincts tell me that giving back, making a difference is a huge part of your life and a very substantial part of your existence.
Well, my biggest source of satisfaction is that my family is very involved in this. I have kids and grandchildren that are out all over the country, in Israel, wherever they are. They're active. They believe it. That authenticates all the years I've spent. My wife is head of the Hebrew Union College Board of Overseers here.
Right.
So to me, the satisfaction comes in my kids and grandchildren are solid in this. We have so many well-to-do people who are great, but nothing much underneath them. So somehow my message has gotten through. I don't know how.
You're a great role model, and you're very blessed to have your family
That's
involved.
my biggest satisfaction.
And I thank you for coming today, and I thank you for making a difference.
Making a Difference will return right after this.
The Friends of the Israel Defense Forces was founded in 1981 with the ultimate mission of caring for the well-being of IDF soldiers. Friends of the IDF provides social, educational, cultural, and recreational programs and builds facilities throughout Israel for the young men and women of the IDF. Most civilian jobs and educational institutions in Israel require at least a high school completion certificate. This level of education is the minimum for achieving success in the Israeli job market. Currently, there are about 9,000 soldiers serving in the IDF who did not complete 12 years of education. The formal education program offers them an opportunity to finish schooling towards the end of their military service and helps them in their pursuit of a better future. Approximately 10% of Israelis do not complete 12 years of education. Approximately 90% of participants successfully complete the formal education program.
Soldiers who dropped from school when they were children or teenagers, they come here to complete 12 years of education.
We perceive formal high school education as a necessary tool for integrating and advancing in the society and in the military units. It is very important for the soldiers to understand that besides what they give for the army invests in them.
Almost each and every soldier here has a problem in his family. Some people don't have families, some people are not talking with their families.
לא שאני לא יכול להגיד שזה היה טעות שעזבתי בית ספר, זה היה פשוט אילוץ, לעזוב בית ספר, לעזור לאמא שלי באותה תקופה, להתמודד עם כל כאבא שלנו עזב אותנו עם משכנתה לבית ולא בסירב לשלם.
בכיתה י' אמא שלי התחילה לעבור מלא בדיקות והתגלה לסרטן. אבא שלי כבר עזב את הארץ. לא הצלחתי להמשיך, כאילו גם בלימודים וגם להיות עם אמא שלי שהיא חולה, וזה נורא קשה.
Stuff that they've been through really affects their lives today.
היה לנו מורה ממש מטורף, ברמה של אלימות כלפי ילדים. מאוד, רק היום אני קולט כמה זה היה קיצוני, אז זה היה מובן לי. הייתי חוטף גם בבית, גם בבית ספר, זה היה עדיף. אם אתה חוטף בבית ספר, לא לספר בבית, ולא תקבל גם בבית. אז אתה שותק, ושתקנו, אני שתקתי כמעט כיתה איזה 7 שנים. שאתה חווה אלימות יום-יום, ואני בתור אחד שלא קולט כלום, תמיד אפשר להוריד לו איזה מכה או 2. בבית אין כסף, ובקושי יש מה לאכול, ההורים שלי גם היו עם 1,000,000 ומשהו שקל חובות, אז הרבה לא היה, אז הייתי צריך לעבוד במסעדות, דברים כאלה.
We tell them, and they also know, it's sort of like a last opportunity, a last chance for them.
The formal education program gives soldiers the opportunity to take classes and earn a high school completion certificate. But more importantly, to learn that their future is in their hands and improve their chances in the job market. Each course lasts approximately 6 months and accommodates 25 students who take classes such as geography, math, and English. The program gives soldiers a chance to finish their military service on an even playing field with their peers.
They work hard from early in the morning up to midnight. We give them the best conditions we can give and the best teachers we can give.
If somebody isn't doing well in a class, is failing, or he's just weaker than the rest of the students, we schedule private lessons with them.
הסגל היה ממש נחמד, ממש התייחסו אלינו היינו כמו משפחה אחת גדולה.
הן אומרות, לא, אנחנו מוותרות עליכם, ואתם מצליחים ותשקיעו וזה, ואנחנו פה לעזור לכם.
They come here and they never believe that they will go through these 6 tiring months and say, I did it.
מתעקשים ועובדים איתנו באמת מהבוקר, מ-9 בבוקר עד אפילו 7-8.
The percentage of success are higher than any other institute in the Israeli society. We have obligation towards the soldiers and towards the Israeli society to bring the soldiers, boys and girls, back to the society and to their families, stronger in their values, stronger in their education, and better citizens.
It means a lot to them, to their confidence.
They start believing in themselves.
לא שיערתי שאני אעמוד בזה.
הקורס הזה קידם אותי ושינה לי את החיים לטובה.
עשיתי 2.5 בגרויות, אחרי זה הגשתי מועמדות למכון טכנולוגי חולון למחלקה לעיצוב פנים. אני כבר שנה שנייה, עכשיו האמת זה מזמן אף.
The biggest thing that they learn here is that what they were so positive that was impossible became possible.
Thank you for watching Making a Difference.